Hi and welcome back to my channel. Today we are reviewing the books that I finally finished from my month I read June. So from my May reading. So if you remember from my May wrap up, I didn't finish any of the books that I had read. So we did that, including the last 4 pages of Blues Volume 35 that you just saw me read. Just so I can say that I finished reading volume 35. It's ridiculous. But I did finish a lot of the books that I read in May. So let's discuss the 3 books that I finished finally for the month of May. So if you remember, I said I only had like 40 pages left in All the Lovers in the Night by Mieko Kawakami. I only had 10 pages left of The Bridge on the River Kwai by Pierre Boulle at the end of that month. And then I was very close to finish Pot-Bouille by Zola. So let's start with this one. Pot-Bouille is my, is it the 6th book, I think, maybe? For the Zola's Rougon-Macquart cycle, when you read them in suggested chronological order, which is what I am doing. At one point I was reading only 1 book a year, and I was like, well, with 20 books in the series, it's going to take me 20 years to finish the series. So I decided to pick up the pace this year, and I've been reading 1 every about 2 months. So this is the continuation of that read. This is my first reread of the cycle. I've read, I believe, 3 or 4 books in this cycle before I decided to just sort of start over and start from the beginning. So this is my first reread. And I'm glad I reread this for the fact that other than the general plot and who is the main character, I really didn't remember anything about this book. So basically we are following the son of the family from the previous book that I just read 2 months ago. And that was the book La Conquête de Blasson, so the conquest of the village called Blasson. And in that book, the son, Octave, or one of the sons of the family, Octave, had been sent off to Paris, and he just never shows up again in that book. He doesn't come back to his parents to visit or anything like that. We know he's sent off, and we get no sort of update on what he's doing. So now we know what he's doing. So here he's in his young 20s. He's just arrived at Paris, and he has decided to start living in this particular apartment complex. So in France, or especially in Paris, but in France in general, you'll remember you had those old buildings with several levels, and basically what it is like the first 2 levels are the most bourgeois. They usually have the high ceilings, the gorgeous massive apartments. As you go up, the social class kind of gets lower, the apartments get smaller, smaller ceilings, etc. And then the very top floors of these beautiful buildings are servant quarters, maid quarters, etc. And so he moves into the basically close to the top, the top floor, like the servant quarters. He gets a room on the floor with the servants, even though he's not a servant himself, but he's a young man. So basically, young men coming from the countryside often could make a deal with these apartment complex and rent a room close to the servant quarters. So basically this book revolves around him interacting with every single level of the apartment complex. And it's a book that basically discusses and sort of looks over the idea of social class and the hypocrisy that comes out of social class. So basically, we as society, as humans, we have a tendency to separate ourselves based off of a determined sense of class. So whether that's determined by money, by your family history, by your job, by your race, where you're from, were you born in the city, do you come from the countryside, etc., etc. So we have this sort of tendency, we have sorry, all my languages are really bad these days. My Japanese, I can't even speak Japanese anymore. It's ridiculous. It's just really bad. Yeah, so we have, as humanity, we have a tendency to create these social classes and to think that if we are in the highest echelon of society, if we are in the top social class, that means that we are wonderful, we are perfect, we've conquered nations, we're better than everyone, right? So you create this idea of a bourgeoisie versus the lower class. The lower class who aren't educated, that know nothing, that they don't know how to make money or save money or use money, etc., etc. And this book basically looks at the hypocrisy behind that idea, because basically every single household on every single floor, and every single person within the household, they're all having affairs. They're all having extramarital affairs. Octave is part of like 3 of them. He has his foot in every door, every female door basically in this book, along with other characters that he observes coming in and out of rooms that he has to hide for, etc., etc. And it just really shows you the hypocrisy, especially when you compare it to how these upper bourgeois people treat their servants. And then you overhear a lot how the servants talking in throughout their servant quarters, but also from their kitchen windows, they talk to each other via the cour, the inner plaza within the buildings. And it's also absolutely fascinating. And it's really it's the perfect depiction of socially based hypocrisy, about people thinking that just because they have money and just because they have a certain reputation, that they are allowed to break the rules and they're still considered upper class. But if someone of lower class were to break those same rules, well, they're just bad people. They have poor education. They've been poorly raised. Like, they are a menace to society. So this book just really, really reflects so well on that hypocrisy. And Zola is just genius when it comes to putting into words the issues of society, the issues of humanity that we have. He's just way too good at that. Now, admittedly, for me personally, despite the genius of this book, I was a little bit on the board side, and I lost a little bit of interest. And the thing is that I think this is definitely one of those issues when it comes to your personal experience and your personal tolerance for these kind of topics. So for me, because all these characters are claiming to be in beautiful marriages and relationships, and they don't sin, and they're just always trying to prove how they're better than everyone, but they're doing exactly the things that they reprimand other classes for doing. For me, that just doesn't sit well with me, and I'm really tired of that. I'm tired of society. I'm tired, personally, yes, I'm very tired of society right now, where everyone's just everyone's a hypocrite. Everyone's, they spout religion, and they spout how this is bad and that is bad, and then behind closed doors, they do it all themselves. I'm tired of people determining that others are good and others are bad just because of their financial situation, because of their educational situation. It's just very tiring. I'm tired of that topic. I'm tired of all the judgment, of all the pretension, of all the hypocrisy again. It's just, for me, I'm really tired. For me, especially, there's another aspect. I've been single for a long time, and it's true, when you've been single for so a long time, you tend to ask yourself why. Like, why do other people have that I don't? Why can these people enter relationships and I can't? And the thing is that, like, you look at a lot of these relationships, and then you realize well, not all of them obviously, but just some relationships that you've been seeing personally, and you're like, you guys have cheated. You guys cheat on each other all the time. Like, how is that a relationship? You know, it's just like, it's just a lot of hypocrisy. And for me personally, just with my life the way it is now, I'm just so tired of it. So tired of it. So this was a bit tiring for me to read. This was difficult for me to read on a personal, emotional level. But in terms of Zola's portrayal of this society, of this hypocrisy, it's just genius. It's absolutely amazing. Octave shows up in the next book, which will be Au Bonheur des Dames, and that will be, again, another reread for me. That will be my second reread. And I'll be curious to see how that one goes, because other than the main plot of that book as well, and the feelings that come from the descriptions of that book, I don't remember the details. So I'm looking forward to reading that. But yeah, I was surprised to see my reaction of this on my reread, which just goes to show that personal experience plays a huge role in how we perceive and how we interact with books. And it shows how reading a book at different phases of your life can really alter your thoughts on a book. So it would be very interesting to see me reread this book upon maybe being in a relationship, or maybe 30 years down the line when I'm still a single lonely woman. No cats though, I don't like cats. But 30 years down the line when I'm 70 and alone still, might be interesting to see again, to reread this and see how I feel. So yeah, that was really fun. Happy to continue my Zola journey. Another book that sort of hit too close to home on terms of an emotional front was All the Lovers in the Night. This talks about our main character, Fuyuko Irie, who is a freelance copy editor for books. And basically, she lives a very much introverted, antisocial type of life where she keeps to herself. She doesn't have many friends. She does have a few outside contacts, but when she starts to change herself upon the sort of suggestion of her contacts, basically, she kind of goes down the wrong path. She kind of does it in the wrong way. She attacks it in the wrong way. She starts drinking, even though she never used to drink. She starts sort of interacting with people in a way that's very dangerous for her, that's very mentally not a place that she should be in. And so the book on a whole, again, I think was very good. Quite excellent even. It's poignantly written. I think it tackles some topics that are very difficult to describe without getting too personally involved. Although maybe you should get personally involved as a writer, I'm not too sure. But there shows a great depth and understanding of such a character. And the writing is excellent as well. But for me, again, on a personal note, some of the emotional parts kind of hit too close at home. And it became a book that I didn't really enjoy reading because it became a book of self-reflection. And it was a book that showed how dangerous it can be when you let your mindset go into a certain direction, which is something we all need to avoid. So for me, on a personal level, this became a little bit of a difficult read. But on a general level, if you're able to pull back and just use this book as a way of getting sort of an insight in someone who might have this lifestyle, who might have this mindset, who might be currently suffering from something that you don't know how you don't have experience with, or maybe you've passed that phase, or maybe I don't know. But there's just as humans, we haven't all experienced the same things or in the same way. So sometimes we might not be able to understand someone and how they process a situation, because we might process it in an entirely different way. And so I think it's very good to get that to have the ability to get a sneak peek into what happens in these people's lives. And I think Mieko Kawakami definitely portrays that very well and very, very realistically, maybe too realistically for this person right here in front of you. But very good book. And then the final book from my May reads that I kept sitting on, seriously, 10 pages. So yeah, The Bridge on the River Kwai by Pierre Boulle. Boulle, not Bouille, Boulle. This is actually a French author. I did buy this book in English because when I bought it, I didn't realize that he was a French author. I didn't take the time to actually look at his name. So this is a book in translation. And this book is about a group of British prisoners of war of the Japanese on the Bangkok-Rangoon line, so the Thailand-Laos border. and they are made to, or forced to, build a bridge for the Japanese so that the Japanese can bring their train all the way to India and continue their quest for conquering that part of the world, basically. And the thing with this is that while typically you would expect prisoners of war being forced to build something that would be a great advantage for the enemy side, while you would expect them to try and sabotage things and try to delay the work or prevent people from working, etc., this particular group of POWs is led by one colonel who has a great sense of British pride and doesn't want to lose face to the Japanese. He wants to show the Japanese, we are excellent engineers, we are intelligent men, we are competent men, we are capable men. And I should separate the word men with nation, but he does take it on a very personal level. There's a sense of British pride, but there's also a pride of just being a man, I think, within this. And so instead of going the sabotage route, he decides to show the Japanese, this is how you build a bridge, and this is how you build a bridge correctly. And so they progress in that direction. However, in the background, there's another group of armies who have been tasked to destroy the very bridge of their fellow team, basically. And so you read this book following the sense of pride of this colonel, and his attempts to show the competency of the British nation, but in the background you know that it's destined to be destroyed. And it's all about observing this character and his ego and his pride, and thinking to yourself, how is he going to react when we sort of try and break that down? So that tension and that sense of foreboding really makes this a super interesting read. And of course, there's a movie to watch after you're done with this. The movie, as I'm aware, I haven't actually seen it myself. I should have by now. I've had so many opportunities to see it in my youth growing up, but the ending is a little bit different, but it's a classic. Both of these books are classics for a reason. So very happy to have finally read this, especially since I only had 10 pages left to read by the end of the month, and I couldn't even do that. So happy to finally say that I accomplished something. I did what I came to do, which was finish books. Like, a DNF is good. I'm all about a DNF, but these books were not worth being DNF'd. It was just, I don't know, maybe was it just there are too many books I want to read? And I do like starting books, to be honest. I really do like starting books. The idea of a new story, of a new character, being able to meet new characters, being able to be placed into a new setting, being able to experience something you haven't been experienced. There's something I love about that. And I think I'm definitely one of those people who is very much about the journey. So when you think about, a lot of times people, so for example, thriller readers will, right? You'll notice that a lot of people will remember how they feel about a book, the emotions of a book, you know, that a book was able to create in them. And then a week later, a month later, a year later, if they're asked, oh, what is that book about? And what did you enjoy about it? And people just blank out. They're like, oh, I don't know. Or thriller reader. I know for me, a lot of thriller books, I'll remember like 70% of the thriller, and then I don't remember who was the killer, how they did it, when they did it, why they did it, etc. Like, I don't remember the conclusion. I don't remember the wrap up. Because the thing is, like, you spend so much time on the journey, and then the conclusion kind of just happens, and then a book just ends there. It just ends. And I think also in life, in personal life, we're on the journey right now. We don't know how our life is going to end. We don't know what's going to come after this. So it's the journey that's the important part. And a lot of people, their journey gets cut off, right? So I think for me, I carry that into books, where sometimes I just appreciate the journey and I don't need to know how it ends, because you know, sometimes things just don't end. I mean, technically, Mieko Kawakami, this book, the book ends, but we don't know how the character reacts after this. We don't know if she's able, if she goes back to the state of mind that she was in this. Does she really overcome it for forever? Is she able? We don't know. We don't know. We don't know what happened to the survivors of this, or the family, the people. We don't know anything. We don't know anything about the Japanese side, the British. Like, historically, we know, but the characters, they don't know that. They don't know this. We don't get to read about the after of their life. This is the only book that in the next book I do get to find out what happens to Octave in the next book, but the other characters in this book, their journey is done. So I think that idea makes it, for me personally, makes it to where not finishing the last 10 pages or 20 pages or 30 pages doesn't seem weird. It really doesn't seem weird. It's like, you know what? The journey progresses and I don't need to know. So, but I still want to finish a book, right? So anyway, that's what I read in the month of, that's what I was able to finish from my May reads. In the month of June, I did read separate reads, and I will introduce those in my June wrap up. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.